I'm gonna guess vanilla. Oh, what did I say? A lot closer than I thought, but... yeah, I think vanilla's winning. Based on every, like, prediction I've seen so far, I'm pretty sure vanilla is winning this. That just kind of seems to be what's been going on. I still have not played that map, Jam and Salmon Junction. I should at some point. Tired. Am I dubious? Oh. Can you believe that's less than a week away? 6 days. I'm so excited. Let's jump in. I'm tired. It's been a long couple of days. I've been very busy with other things. Sleepless nights. You know how it is. So, for tonight's show, we've got two topics. The Microsoft lawsuit, the FTC versus Microsoft, and we're going to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike. So we're going to talk about that, and then we've got WIBE, where we're talking about Link's Awakening, and other video game. And we're talking about Miss Marvel, the comic. We're talking about Miss Marvel comics. So yeah, we've got a... I don't know, I don't want to go past an hour and a half, but we'll see. Let's see how this all turns out. I don't know, I didn't expect to go for like 2+ hours last week. So, yeah, what else are we going to talk about? I know I said we were going to do Mario Kart tonight. Yeah, no, I guess not. You know, it's Splatfest. They only happen once every so often, you know, they're not super common things. But, so I was like, you know, it's a special event. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. God. So yeah. So I guess let's get started on the FTC lawsuit. So Microsoft versus the FTC. We talked, I think like 2 weeks ago, about the lawsuit, about all the information that had come out about Microsoft versus PlayStation, PS6, development kits, Microsoft admitting to have lost the last console generation, which I don't know is technically true, because technically the Wii U got their fucking teeth kicked in, like, bad. I don't know, the Switch is in a weird place because of when it released. It released halfway through the last console generation. So is it a last... because it's definitely on par with, like, the PS4 or the Xbox One. But we're now... we're, like, almost... we're coming up on, like, 2 or 3 years in to the next generation. Again, I'm bad at time. I mean, the new Switch comes out next year. So is the new Switch a current gen? Right, the PS5? Or is it last gen? Is it both? I think it's both. I think the Switch is also both, but... again, Nintendo technically also isn't even part of the console wars, because Nintendo doesn't make video game consoles, they make toys that play video games, and that's technically a different thing. Ask Nintendo, they would admit that themselves. So, yeah. So, the actual lawsuit itself, we got the ruling from the judge earlier this week. And it was that, yes, Microsoft has won the lawsuit. They can officially buy Activision Blizzard. And, like, this is... Because originally the plan was for the deal to go through, like, around this time, right? July of 2023. Because the deal was announced in, like, February of last year. Like, this has been a long thing coming. And, yeah, from what it looks like, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, in the next coming days... I want to say on, like, Monday, for example, Activision Blizzard's stock will be removed from the stock exchange. That's, like, one of the things that's happening because they are now officially being merged. So, yeah, this is all going to happen, like, real quick. Like, the deal's now gone through. I know, so, of the 3 big government agencies, the US government, the UK government, and the European Union... The European Union said it was fine. The UK government did disagree with it. They said that, no, this shouldn't happen. But I'm sure some deal is going to be made between the UK government and Microsoft. Maybe they'll give up some kind of power. I don't know how it's going to work. Something's going to happen there. But, yeah, the US and the European Union, really, the US marking it kind of seals the deal. So, yeah, this is all going to move very quickly. Of course, as part of everything moving so quickly, the FTC is trying to appeal the ruling. They sent an appeal, like, basically immediately after the ruling was handed out. They sent in an appeal to the Ninth Circuit Court, and just earlier today, that appeal was already struck down. So, yep, the FTC cannot stop this. The merging of Microsoft is going to happen. Well, I've said it before, there are no winners, there are only losers here, and I do definitely think that Microsoft is a monopoly. I totally think that, yeah, Microsoft has too much power with this, but it's, and they're you know, they're going to try to buy more. I mean, they said they had their eyes on Sega, they had their eyes on Supergiant, they're just going to keep going, and, yeah, and I know PlayStation's going to start buying more stuff up. Nintendo's probably not going to do anything because they're Nintendo. I don't know, they did buy Next Level Games a few years back. I think they also officially bought Monolith Soft because they owned, like, a controlling stake of Monolith, and now they just fully own Monolith. And same thing with Next Level Games. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. But no, this, sadly, this ruling does not surprise me. We see this all too often where, you know, like, you look back, like, 100 years ago, and you have people like Teddy Roosevelt who are just like, we're going to destroy the monopolies, right? JP Morgan can go fuck themselves. They're fucking gone. And then over the past 100 years, JP Morgan Oil has reformed into Exxon. Yep, it's basically all those oil companies that were broken up in the 20s and the 10s were all put back together over the past 100 years. And nobody gives a shit anymore. Yep. And so, yeah, we're getting more and more monopolies. But, you know, with all the strike, the writers and the writer's strike, the actor's strike, the UPS strike that's potentially going to happen, fucking Joe Biden blocking the rail worker strike. You know, we're seeing more strikes now in the past, like, few years than we have since, like, the 1980s. Because back in the 1980s, there used to be like 300 strikes a year. And then Ronald Reagan came in and used his power and influence to make people hate strikes and to convince the American public that strikes are bad for them. Because, you know, Ronald Reagan is the worst president ever. One of them, anyways. And so, since then, there have only been, like, maybe... It went from 300 to, like, 30. These are approximate numbers, mind you. So, but we're seeing more and more strikes nowadays. And yeah, it pisses me off that Joe Biden blocked the rail workers strike. Because they were not asking for much. And the actors in the writing guild aren't asking for much. But, back on the FTC thing, it gives me hope that, yeah, we're going to hopefully start seeing a new age of the worker. Especially because, you know, we're getting to the point where boomer Republicans are hopefully starting to die. And younger generations are not voting for them. So we'll see how it all turns out. But of course, Republicans are coping with that by having people run as progressive Democrats, and then once they get elected, those people just switch parties. So, yeah. We live in hell. Just a constant reminder, your annual reminder that we live in hell. But Call of Duty is now coming to Game Pass. Probably. And anything else. So people who are excited for that, well, hey, that's a coming. And then everything else. And people have pointed out that now Microsoft officially owns Banjo-Kazooie, Spyro the Dragon, and Crash Bandicoot. The only mascots they're missing are Mario and Sonic. They have the rest of them. From, that Ninda's Extreme mascot era. From the age of the mascot platformer. But hey, they brought back Gex. They brought back, there was a conference, and I don't remember even what conference it was. They're bringing back Gex. We're getting a spiritual successor to Zelda: The Faces of Evil. It's called Arzette. It's got a subtitle. I don't remember what the subtitle is. But that looks very interesting. Completely unrelated to the FTC stuff. But yeah, that got announced. Yeah, Gex. Classic mascot platformer Gex. That was literally memed into existence. That was literally memed into modern popularity. And the same thing kind of happened with the Noid a few years ago. Ugh. So, we've been talking about the strike. We might as well just talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike. So, for the past few months, it's like 60 or 70 days, the Writers Guild has been on strike, right? They demand better, it's not restitution, it's, residuals. They demand better residuals, and when I say better residuals, I'm talking from like 3% to like 6%. It's not that big of a change. They want better residuals, and they want insurance against AI, right? That these studios aren't going to bring in AI computers to write televisions and movies. We've talked about the writer's strike on this stream before. I'm sure when it started. And yeah, I've been in full support of the writer's strike the entire time. And then this week, negotiations broke down for SAG-AFTRA, the actors union. And now they are on strike as well. And of course, Solidarity Forever. It's what I named the stream. So of course, I fully support the actor strike. Again, they're asking for very similar things, residuals, and they don't want AI replacing them. Because one of the things that came out from this is that, like, the studios came to SAG-AFTRA and was like, hey, we've got a groundbreaking AI proposal for you. What if we bring in a background actor, hire them for 1 day's worth of pay, we scan their face, and then we get to use their face forever and never pay them again. These people aren't human. I just want to say that. Once you get enough money, you stop being human. And I also want to point out, I know people are like, oh, aren't actors millionaires? And yes, there are some very rich actors out there. You know, your Tom Cruises, your Robert Downey Jr.'s, your, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, other highest paid actors in Hollywood. But for every one of them, there's at least 100 who are, just your background actors, who have made small appearances or have minor roles in televisions or movies. Like, there's that one guy who plays Hector, and, like, he plays the same character in every show he's ever been in, from, like, Breaking Bad to, like, Prison Break. Sons of Anarchy, right? He plays Hector, right? Those are the types of people, right? SAG represents like 160,000 employees. It's a lot of people. But, of course, some people will only focus on the millionaires. No, this isn't for the millionaires. I mean, the millionaires benefit from this as well, obviously. But it also benefits your average, everyday, you know, small-time actor who's just trying to make a living. Who doesn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. Who can't afford to live in LA, you know, one of the most expensive cities on the planet. That's what this is for. Yeah, and part of that, and like the studio, a thing that came out this week, is that so the writers and actors are striking for the first time in 60 years, right, together. And as part of that, as part of the writers' strike, the studios were like, oh, well, the plan is that if we just wait long enough, eventually the writers will no longer be able to afford food, they will no longer be able to afford their houses, and then we'll go, once they've all lost their homes, then we'll start negotiating with them, because then they're more likely to give us a better deal. And that's Mask Off. That is so fucked up. Again, these people are monsters. And who worship God, but the God is spelled with $signs. So that's the kind of, you know, just horrible, awful things they're dealing with. But now that they have SAG on their side, I definitely feel like things are going to start picking up steam. I can already tell you, though, that, like, because of just, like, we're not even 48 hours into the strike. I can tell you already that movie and television has already been delayed at least 6 months. Right? So anything that was currently in production is now 6 months away from, you know, coming out. Just in 24 hours. Just the day since the strike started. And that's just going to keep going up. And eventually we're going to get... Hopefully something happens before this. But eventually it's going to get to the point where these companies have shareholders meetings where they have no new movies or TV shows coming out. And then their shareholders are going to yell at them. And that's when progress is going to be made. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But knowing capitalism the way I do, it's gonna be a while. But no, I have that they will. It's gonna be a while, but I have faith that they will get what they want. That yeah, these companies are not gonna fuck them over. That it's these people on the ground who make these corporations all their money. The writers, the actors, everyone else who's, you know, currently not striking. And without them, these companies are useless. Bob Iger, you know, can't do fucking anything. Right? He's not going to go out and scab. Because, you know, he can't act. He's just some fucking asshole. So I'm fully on board with all of this. Go, solidarity forever. Long live the strike. For the union makes us proud. Now, as part of the strike, there has been a lot of confusion. There has been a lot of misinformation. And I want to say, I am not an expert. I should not be your first source to go to. I probably shouldn't even be like your 30th source. But I'm going to give you what I know. Okay? So I'm going to tell you what I know. And there are people, there's this one, I want to say Chloe is their name, on TikTok, who has been covering the writer's strike the entire time. And now they're covering the actor's strike. And they're usually my first source. I should actually find... Oh gosh, what are they called? It is... Clara. Okay, did I say Chloe? It's at that Clara Feed, F-I-E-D. And they're a TikTok account that, you know, they do what they call strike tea. And that's, honestly, that's one of the best sources for information on the strike. They're the one I follow. So I highly recommend following them. And I know as part of the strike, there has been no boycott called for streaming services, for going to movies, for going to, watch television. There has not been a boycott called. You don't have to cancel your Netflix. You can still go see our Oppenheimer and Barbie when it comes out next week. No boycott has been called against that. Now, a boycott may be called in the future, but at the moment, nothing has. And eventually, these companies will run out of movies. Like, right now, we have really seen no side effect of the writer's strike. Like, nothing has happened yet. By the time the fall TV show lineup comes out, there will be nothing. There will be nothing. There's going to be no fall television, and that's when we will start seeing the hit. Because a lot of these shows were midway through production when the writer's strike started. So that's when we'll start seeing these things. And it's like, I saw one of the reports was that, like, oh, Euphoria Season 3 has been delayed until 2026. So that's one of the obvious ones. But there are so many more than that. So right now, no boycott has been called. But they may call a boycott in the future. I don't know. A boycott on that level is going to be really hard to organize. So I don't know if they're actually ever going to do that. But for the moment, they've said it's fine. Because, these people still did work hard on these movies. And the people who are striking, they love making movies. I want to make that very clear. They love what they're doing. They just want to be able to, make a livable wage while doing it. Which that's nothing to ask for. But, so, one of the questions that has been brought up in the past 24 hours is what are content creators' positions in this strike? Because as part of the SAG-AFTRA thing, right, like, actors cannot go to red carpets. They cannot make promos for their movies. Right? That's something that actors cannot do. And of course people are like, well, if actors can no longer do that, then they're going to get content creators to do that for them. Right? Like, oh, if an actor, like, I'm just going to use Blue Beetle. When Blue Beetle comes out in August, right? The actors who were starred in that movie, I can't remember the main the actors whose name I can think of is George Lopez. Right? George Lopez can't go to the red carpet. So instead they're going to get influencers to do that. But some influencers were already going to go, regardless of whether the strike was happening or not. Like, Straw Hat Goofy, a lot of this controversy kind of centers around him, because he came out and almost immediately showed his ass. But, so he's going to be the primary example I use. But, right, he was going to be invited to this movie, regardless. Right? He might have already been invited to this. Right? He might already have a contract with Warner Brothers that says, hey, you have to cover this Blue Beetle premiere on your TikTok. Does that make him a scab? From what I understand, no. That SAG-AFTRA did put out a statement saying that no, if you already have a contract with a studio, you should work that contract. So, right, if he was already invited to the Blue Beetle premiere, then he should do the Blue Beetle premiere in August. However, if, like, let's say Disney reaches out to him, like, next month, and is like, hey, can you go to the premiere for our new animated movie Star in, like, October or November? He cannot take that. That's considered scabbing. Even though he would have been invited to that premiere whether or not there was a strike, that's still considered scabbing? Because the whole thing about content creators here is that the last, like, okay, if you remember the South Park episode Canada on Strike, which the whole point of that fucking episode was that Trey and Matt Parker did not agree with that strike. They were the scabs in that situation, right? They weren't your buddy guy. They didn't agree with the writers on that strike. That's the whole point of the hypothetical internet dollars in that episode. Is that, oh, well, these are hypothetical internet dollars. And Trey and Matt Parker believed that those would never turn into real money. And then, surprise, surprise, it did actually turn into lots and lots of real money. those hypothetical internet dollars did literally become real internet dollars, and Trey and Matt Parker were that is probably one of their biggest fuck-ups ever, but the only one that they probably fucked up more was climate change. Because, yeah, Trey and Matt Parker, when climate change was a big thing, right, when people were first really starting to talk about climate change in the 2000s, they were anti-climate change. They were climate change deniers. They've admitted their mistakes on that, but I guarantee they're not going to admit their mistakes on this. They're probably still scabs. Fucking South Park. But no, so in that episode, what was my point? Right, like, they use hypothetical internet dollars, because the internet as we know it today didn't exist. The last time SAG was on strike, and I want to say the 80s, guess what? The internet was barely a concept. Right, like, God, the NES was probably... I don't even know if the NES was out at that point. So it was a completely different landscape. And content creators exist in this weird sort of gray area. And so over the past 24 hours, I have seen a lot of conflicting reports. Both from, random people on TikTok and Twitter. And from people who have... Not from SAG-AFTRA people, but from people who have spoken to SAG-AFTRA people. Like, there was someone who contacted SAG-AFTRA and was like, yeah, influencers are covered under this sort of promotional thing, right? It's their job. They're not the one striking. They can continue to do work. And then that was like yesterday, and then today I saw something that completely contradicted that. That no, they cannot do that. Coming from two different sources, both strike captains. SAG needs an official statement, and I'm sure they're working on it, but they've got other priorities. But right now we're in this very weird gray zone that has, caused people like Straw Hat Goofy to completely show his ass. And, I mean, I've seen a bunch of people call him Scab Hat Goofy. So, yeah, it's just nobody knows where we stand. Of course, part of this is making the strike about them, right? We're taking the actors' strike to get better pay, better residuals, right? Not be replaced by robots, and we're making it about content creators. And yeah, that's completely true. But it's all I've been seeing the past, 24 hours. It's all I've been seeing is people turning on each other. I guess that's how I'd put it. Is that it took less than 24 hours for everybody to turn on everybody else. Some have backed off, and, some people were like, oh, yeah, okay, good, you're making a good stance here. But no, some people jumped from 0 to 100 real quick, and were calling for people's deaths almost immediately, calling them scabs, when they weren't scabs. Nobody's even gotten close, and I'm talking in the content creator sphere. Nobody's even gotten close to doing that yet. Probably. But it's just a fucking mess at the moment. And nobody knows where to stand on this. And there's so much conflicting information. And there's so many people giving out misleading information. Because, part of me is wondering... can you even review movies? Because, okay, so you can't do promotion for movies. And, right, that's, those obvious things are, red carpet events. Right? Those are promotion. That's publicity. But talking about someone with a lot of followers on YouTube, on Twitch, on TikTok, so, not me, but someone talking about a movie is still technically promotion. Someone posting a TikTok, or even just Kojima, or is it Kojima? Yeah, Hideo Kojima posting a picture on Twitter saying he saw a movie. That's technically promotion for a movie. Does that make him a scab? Are film critics scabs now? Because I think that sounds fucking ridiculous. But the way some people on Twitter and TikTok are talking, yeah, no, that posting a movie review as a content creator makes them a scab. But does that make a film critic, someone who wrote a review for the Washington Post, Does that make them a scab? Because I guarantee you some people would say no, that doesn't. So why is it a content creator is a scab for posting a review, but a writer for the Washington Post isn't? Or, like, if someone on, like, when Blue Beetle comes out next month, Straw Hat Goofy is going to be my example, would have made a video being like, hey, here are 10 Easter eggs you probably missed in the Blue Beetle movie. And, you know, he's done that for every Marvel movie. He did that for The Flash, right? And people would say, well, that's technically promotion. For the, right, pointing out Easter eggs you might have missed in a movie is technically promotion for the movie. So that would make him a scab. But then, would IGN post that exact same article, 10 Easter eggs you might have missed in Blue Beetle? Does that make IGN scab? Because I don't think so. But it's technically both promotions, right? They're both doing their jobs. Just one is an official website, and the other is just a singular guy on TikTok who would have made that video regardless. Maybe, and I could see part of it being like, oh, he's getting, right, maybe they're getting paid by the studio, right? Straw Hat Goofy making that 10 Easter eggs, he's getting paid by the studio to make that movie. But you could also argue that because Warner Brothers is advertising on IGN for their Blue Beetle movie, and, you know, Warner Brothers is posting, right, IGN posts that article, and then they get ads from Warner Brothers, they're also sort of indirectly getting paid by Warner Brothers. And, you know, paid articles do also exist. Are they scabbing? I don't think so. I think that's doing their job as journalists, as promoters. I know some people will say content creators aren't journalists. And while they're not, like, because I know some people say, well, oh, they didn't go to journalism school. Now you're just gatekeeping what journalists can be, right? That's just saying, like, oh, someone can't be a journalist and said they went to journalism school. That's gatekeeping by its most basic definition. It's, yeah, intellectual gatekeeping. God, my mouth is so fucking dry. So right, I'm a nobody. I've got like 100 followers. I'm a fucking nobody. But does me, right, reviewing a movie or a TV show count as scabbing? Or me just sitting here, not even reviewing, just me sitting here talking about the movie, is that technically scabbing? Because part of me doesn't think so, but I also don't fucking know anymore. Because there is a lot of uncertainty in the space. And I know SAG has an email being like, oh, well, if you have any questions, you can email us here. I'm not going to waste their fucking time. No. So I don't know where to stand. I mean, I'm on the side of the writers. I want to support them however I can. I just feel like content creation is in this weird gray area, and we don't know what to do about it. I think that's what it all comes down to. So, what am I going to do? Right? Again, I don't want to make this about me, but at least for today, I guess I am. What am I going to do? Well, I think the safest option is to do nothing. The only winning move is not to play. So, we're just not going to talk about movies. You know, for the next however long the strike is going on, I'm just not going to talk about movies. Movies, television, we can still talk about anime. I guess we can also talk about Bluey. But, like, and I can also talk about, like, Broadway, I guess. I mean, I am going to see Hadestown in, like, October or something. So, I guess I could talk about that. But, yeah, I think it is just the safest to show solidarity with the union, with the writers and the actors, to just not talk about movies. I'm still going to go see movies. Like, I saw Mission Impossible. I had, like, a good, like, 20-30 minutes to talk about it tonight. We're just not going to do that. And same thing with Secret Invasion or My Adventures with Superman. We're just not going to talk about it. Like, I had it scheduled, and then everything kind of exploded yesterday, and everyone turned on each other. And even though I'm a nobody, I just feel like the safest move is just to do nothing. So, yeah, I'm just going to stop talking about movies. I'm going to watch them, but we're just not going to talk about them. However, what I am going to do is I'm going to make a list. I'm going to make a list of every movie, every TV show, every other related inquiry that I see during the strike. And then when the strike is over, when the people have got their just dues, then we'll just talk about everything. We'll set aside like a 10-hour live stream, and I'll just talk about, you know, we'll catch up. I'll talk about everything we couldn't talk about. That's my plan at the moment. So I guess the first thing added onto that list is Mission Impossible. And we'll talk about it in... It's probably going to be a few months. Just being a realist here, it's going to be a few months. But yeah, when that time comes, we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about everything else. But for the moment, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about movies or television. I feel like that is the safest way to do it. Just make a blanket, overarching, sweeping statement. Like, yeah, even though I'm making no money from this, right? Like, even if I were to, right, whether or not this was going on, I'd be making no money. I just feel like, yeah, it's just the safest thing to do. So we're just not going to talk about anything. I mean, I've done it before when we were doing 365 Days of Animal Crossing. I didn't talk about movies for like 3 or 4 months. So, yeah, we'll just do that again. And I mean, there's still, and like, for people worried about like, oh, well, what am I going to watch? First of all, nothing's going to change this year. I mean, sure, some big TV shows are going to not return for the fall season. But, like, a lot of places are, you know, pretty safe through the end of the year. And then come next year, well, who knows? Who knows? Depends on how long the strike goes. But I will say, since one of the things we can talk about is anime, maybe this is final. I talked about this a few weeks ago, I think during the birthday stream, that I was thinking about finally getting into One Piece. Right, that this one TikToker talking about One Piece geography kind of got me interested in One Piece. Maybe this is my excuse to finally start reading One Piece. You know? So, that's where we're at. But no, I'm in full support of the writer's strike. I did write it down here. It's the Entertainment Community Fund, which is a fund for people who are currently striking, so that way they can afford food, they can afford water, they can afford electricity, they can afford, right, any essentials that they need. People can donate to this fund, and people who are in right, they can get money through this fund for people who do need it while they are striking. So this is the Entertainment Community Fund, is something that exists. I will put a link to it in the YouTube VOD of this video. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend go over there and donate. Because yeah, I'm in full support. Yeah, let's... I don't remember, Ron Perlman put out a thing where it was like, oh yeah, you know, you're gonna fuck around, you're gonna find out. You know, we know where you live. We're not afraid to burn your house down. Yeah, Ron Perlman came out and said that. Which, I mean, we always talk about saying the quiet part out loud. But this is one of the few times where I'm like, nah, you know, I'm actually kind of fine with him saying the quiet part out loud this time. Alright, let's continue on. So, what, outside of movies and television, what else have I been doing? Well, my mouth is so insanely dry right now. I can drink this entire cup of water and it's not going to help at all. I did just drink that entire cup of water and it did not help at all. Oh my gosh. I got really worked up there for a minute. But rightfully so. So, okay, so video games. The Mario Kart 8 DLC. Let's start there. I think that's the safest place to start. It came out the other day, and I'll be honest. So I've been in support of the Mario Kart DLC since the beginning. I know some people found it really annoying, and I definitely would have rather probably had Mario Kart 9 over this DLC. But I've always found the DLC kind of interesting. And where we currently stand with it, honestly, it's been pretty good. I feel like around Wave 2 or 3, people kind of changed their minds on the DLC and have been like, no, this is good now. And it's mainly because they've been putting in a lot of good tracks. Right? They've been at, your Waluigi Pinballs, your Coconut Mall. Even, one of the crazy things was, people had a problem with Coconut Mall. That the cars didn't drive anymore. So what did Nintendo do? They went and they fixed it. Yeah, no, there's been a certain level of love and care put into this DLC that originally people just saw as a cash grab. Oh, we're just going to blankly remake a bunch of generic courses. No, they've actually... I'm not going to say they went above and beyond, but they've definitely put in the work. Again, Nintendo is one of the only companies that knows how to make good DLC. I would argue they're the only AAA company. Maybe them and CD Projekt Red, kind of, are like the only companies that know how to make good DLC. AAA. Indie games are great at. Indie games, there was a report on Friday Night Funkin', which I know nothing about. But I guess part of the reason Friday Night Funkin's taken so long after their Kickstarter is because of all the stretch goals. They have to make over 300 songs. And like every song needs to have an easy mode, a hard mode, an insanity mode. Like, it's a lot of music. And it's a lot of levels. And that's going to take a lot of time. So that's why the Friday Night Funkin' thing's taken so long. But no, indie games are great at it as well. A lot of the time indie games just do it for free because, you know, they love making games. But, so, here we are with the Mario Kart DLC. And so, we got 2 tracks. A Feather Cup and I think a Double Cherry Cup. And I'll be honest, I like the Feather Cup. So the Feather Cup has Athens Dash, which I think is a Greece-themed Mario Kart stage is a great idea. Like, it didn't have to be Athens Dash, but the idea of Athens Dash is a great one. And I think it's a fun track. It has... We lost. We got our ass kicked. It has, what else does it have in it? It has... I know it ends with the new, Squeaky Clean Sprint, which is a track that Nintendo did not have to go that hard on, but they did, and it's a great track as a result. Squeaky Clean Sprint is a really good track. And then the other 2 tracks, whose names I cannot think of, are also pretty decent. I'm completely forgetting what they are, but there are 2 other tracks, and they are both very good. The other track, though, which I think is the Cherry Cup, is not... I do not actually like the Cherry Cup. I was not impressed with it, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, this is... Honestly, I would say this is probably the worst one in the DLC. And it's for... part of it's personal reasons. But I think of the 4 tracks, I only like one of them. So the first track is Los Angeles Laps. And I'll be honest, I didn't even realize it was a Los Angeles themed track. I started playing it and I was like, wait, what track? Because I just did the Grand Prix. And I was like, wait, what theme is this? What city is this supposed to be? I thought for a second it might have been an another Australia themed track. Like, I had no idea that was supposed to be LA. So I think it's got kind of generic theming, honestly. Like, I didn't even pick up on that. So I felt like Los Angeles Laps is kind of underwhelming. Sunset Wild, I think, is the next one. And Sunset Wild's whole thing So Sunset Wilds is one of, like, the only tracks people like from the Game Boy Mario Kart. Because the Game Boy Mario Kart is basically just a remake of the SNES Mario Kart, and it's generally considered the worst Mario Kart. But one of the few tracks people like in it is Sunset Wild, because Sunset Wild, every lap, it changes. Or at least the background changes. So it starts off at sunset, then on lap 2 it gets a little darker, and then on lap 3, the sun fully sets. And it's like, oh, that's a really cool gimmick. And it worked like that in the original, it worked like that in Mario Kart 7, I want to say it works like that in Mario Kart Tour. But for some reason, in the Switch version, in this DLC track, it doesn't work like that anymore. No, instead, it just stays at sunset the entire time. And I feel like the easiest way to just make it change is whenever the person in first place crosses the finish line, it then changes to the next phase. Right? And that would easily just change it over to the next phase, so that way, you know, people can view all 3 of those phases. So, removing that gimmick, it's now just a generic super circuit track. Right? Like, that's what makes that track interesting is its gimmick. And when you take that out, it's not nearly as good. So I'm kind of disappointed with that one. The next one is Koopa Cape. I will be honest, I like Koopa Cape in the Wii version. I think the original Koopa Cape is really cool. This new Koopa Cape, though, so when you go underground in the original Koopa Cape, there are like these spinning electric wheels. And I want to say when they remade Koopa Cape on the 3DS, they brought those back. Right? It was like these spinning electric wheels that if you hit them, you basically got shocked. But no, in this remake, they got rid of the electric wheels. They put some ramps, like, you know, like the Maple Tree Way, where you can go off those ramps at the back to get an item box. They put some of those into the underwater section, which there were already some of those in the underground, or like at the very end of the track. But no, they put those in the underwater section, and when they took out the electricity circuits, they instead just replaced them with these like generic, like spinny boost pad things, like these anti-gravity boosts. And that's not nearly as interesting. So I feel like the entire like end of the lap where you're underwater is just so underwhelming. Like, originally it was like, oh, you're cool in this, like, underwater tunnel, and, like, that's really cool. But no, I'm just kind of disappointed. Oh, I just remembered, in the other cup, Daisy's Cruiser. Fucking love Daisy's Cruiser. I felt like the 3DS remake was fantastic. They used the 3DS remake track. Still works great. Still love Daisy Cruiser. Okay, back on track to the Cherry Cup. The final track in the Cherry Cup is Vancouver Velocity. And that one I do think is good. That's the one I do actually like. I think Vancouver Velocity has some interesting settings. I like the nighttime theme. I like the hockey rink with the Shy Guys on it. Like, that's cool. The one in the Cherry Cup, the one good track is Vancouver Velocity. So I like that. But the rest of the Cherry Cup, I just kind of find underwhelming. So that's what I think makes it the weakest track in the DLC. I'm probably alone on this. I'm sure there are other, like, I know Toad Circuit got added in the original wave, and people hate Toad Circuit and whatnot, and, like, I get that. It's more of a, it's basically become a meme at this point. But, you know, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, are there better choices? Definitely. But, you know, for what we got, I'm just kind of, I don't know, and see, I don't hate these tracks. Like, if they added the Sunset back into Sunset Wild, I think that would fix, right, that would, weirdly enough, even though they're not changing the course design, I still think it would overall make the track better. Because that was kind of the track's whole gimmick. And then, maybe if I play Los Angeles Laps more, I'll start to like it more. Because right now, it just feels very generic. Because I like the tour tracks. I've said this before. I think the tour tracks are usually pretty decent. Like, and I like that they change every lap. That's kind of cool, right? Like, that's a brand new addition that hadn't been in any previous Mario Kart track. So I thought that was kind of cool, but we'll see what actually happens with it. But I'm still enjoying. I mean, I still love Mario Kart. Like that. Nothing's just because I don't love the Double Cherry Cup doesn't mean like I'm like, oh, I regret the DLC. It's just kind of an underwhelming cup for me. It's not actually that big of a deal, especially because I've loved everything else so far. So what else? So we've only got 2 tracks left. I know one is the Blue Shell Cup, and I don't remember what the other cup is. I know we've got 2 left, though. So what do I want for the last 2 cups? Well, my obvious thought is I still love the idea of the final cup being a Rainbow Road Cup. Right? The Blue Shell Cup is nothing but Rainbow Roads. I think that's a great idea. I would love to see that. But I also had the... So the 4 Rainbow Roads we don't have are DS's Rainbow Road, GameCube's Rainbow Road, Wii's Rainbow Road, and I want to say Super Circuit's Rainbow Road. But honestly, I kind of hope that they don't do Super Circuit's Rainbow Road, but instead add in a brand new Rainbow Road. You know, because Mario Kart 7, or Mario Kart 8, has its own Rainbow Road, and it's genuinely considered the worst one. I would love to see a new Rainbow Road. But it shouldn't be called Rainbow Road. I want it to be called Popstar Road, and for it to be a Kirby-inspired Rainbow Road, and for one of the final 2 DLC characters to be Kirby. That's my dream for the Blue Shell Cup. Will that happen? I don't know. I'd say there's like a 5% chance. But that's my dream. Popstar Road, 3 other Rainbow Roads, and Kirby as the final DLC character. Who should the other DLC character be? I'm between Pauline and Funky Kong. I would actually want both. I feel like both of them would make great additions, but they're either going to do one or the other. So we're only going to get one or the other, or we're going to just get, so we're either going to get one or the other, and then like a third-party character, like they could bring back Rob, or we're going to get Pauline and Funky. Or we could get Pauline and Diddy. I'd rather have Pauline and Funky, but we could get Pauline and Diddy. That's totally possible. I drink too much water way too fast. Oh. Okay. The other cup, I actually don't know. There are so many other tracks that I would love to get into this DLC. The only one I can think of off the top of my head, the ones I can think of off the top of my head, I would love Luigi's Mansion. I really like Luigi's Mansion from DS. I think that's a really fun track. That'd be a cool get. Wahoo Island from the 3DS. I think that would be another cool track. Wario Stadium from GameCube, I think would be a cool track. I don't want anything from Super Circuit. Toad's Factory would be a cool track. Yeah, I don't want anything from Super Circuit, and I don't want anything from SNES. I don't want Super Mario Kart, and I don't want Super Circuit. I'd rather have GameCube. Dino Jungle would be a cool get. We got DK Mountain. We got the Ice DK. DK Summit, DK Mountain, whichever one it is. It'd be cool to get the other one. I want to say the other one. I want to say we got DK Mountain. So it'd be cool to get DK Summit or Grumble Volcano or whatever it's called. I don't know. It's not Grumble Volcano. I think that we already have that one. Whatever other DK track, that's a cool one. And that would make sense if we got Funky or Diddy Kong. I don't think I want Jungle Cruise. I think it's called Jungle Cruise. The N64 track. No, I don't think I want that one. Dino Dino Jungle's cool. You know, I'm always down for an original track. And based on the record, I would think we would get at least one. I think there's a good chance we get at least one last original track. And of course, there's always still the possibility that they do another wave of DLC Pass 2 that adds in more tracks and more characters. Because there have been some hints, but like no guarantees. But I'm not going to get my hopes up. Because I do want them to start making on Mario Kart 9 or Nintendo Kart at some point. What else? What else? I can't think of any other tracks, but stuff from GameCube and Wii would be cool. Like, I don't want Rosalina's Ice World. The Wario's Pirate Shipyard from 7, that's an okay track. I'd be fine with that one coming back. But yeah, so I've been playing that. Oh, you know what I realized about Splatfest the other night? So with this Splatfest, I have now been on each idol's team at least once. So I've been on let's work left to right. I've been on Shiver's team twice for, I want to say, the first two Splat, Camping Gear and then Pokemon. I've been on Frey's team 4 times. So, you know, the Zelda one, the chocolate one, other ones I can't think of. I've been on Frey's team multiple times. And then this is the first time I've ever been on a big man team. So yeah, I've been with each Splatoon idol at least once now. Took a while. Took almost like 10 months. But it finally happened. Yeah, I noticed that the other day. I have played a little Splatoon, not much. Like doing your obligatory one match a day to get the basically guaranteed one level. But yeah. I have been playing Hey Pikmin. So, you know, the 3DS game, one of the last Nintendo 3DS games that came out after the Wii U's launch, Hey Pikmin. I bought it last year sometime. I bought a used copy for like $20. And I played through the first world and was like, this is okay, I guess. Like, I wasn't too impressed with Hey Pikmin, all things considered. But with Pikmin 4 coming out in less than a week, I was like, you know what? I want to beat Pikmin. I want to beat I would love to beat every Pikmin game. Technically, you can't beat Pikmin Bloom. But, you know, I played a little Pikmin Bloom when it first launched. I would play it on between classes at university. It was okay. I guess it's actually really popular in Japan. At least more popular here than it is here in the States. But no, I want to beat Hey Pikmin. It's not a bad game, but it's not a great game either. It reminds me of, you know, Nintendo's terrible year. I know Scott the Raws had an official name for it, but, you know, it's Nintendo's terrible year. The year they released Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, Paper Mario Color Splash, Chibi Robo Ziplash. That's what it reminds me the most of. I do think it's as someone who has played Chibi Robo Ziplash, I will say I've enjoyed it more than Chibi Robo Ziplash. Because, like, there's a lot of, like, during levels in this game, you'll, like, come across these, like, little events that trigger these cutscenes that the Pikmin, like, act out these cute little things where it's like, oh, a Pikmin enters a door, sees an enemy, and then, like, flees away and comes back with, like, an army of Pikmin to defeat the enemy. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cute. Or there's one where, like, a Pikmin enters a door, and then, like, a rock falls on its head, and it does a little twirling animation. Or, hey, there's Pikmin playing in the grass, and playing in the cotton balls, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cute. There's a lot of little, like, charming animations like that. Do they interrupt gameplay? Kind of. But it's got a lot of personality. That's what I'll give Hey Pikmin, is that it's chock full of personality. The level design is okay. There are some levels that I did kind of like. Like, there's one level where, as Olimar, you're given no Pikmin, and you have to climb to the top of this tower, and then at the very top of the tower, you finally get Pikmin, and you now have to climb all the way back down, navigating it, and along the way unlocking secrets that you couldn't get to your first time on the way up. You know, it's kind of like an escort mission like that, where it's like, oh, you go through it one time, like the Temple of Time in Twilight Princess, where you go through it once, learn the layout, and then you have to go through it again, but without your gear, or with a new piece of gear. And I kind of like stuff like that. So that level's cool. They play a lot with, like, electricity. Like, there are certain levels where, there are platforms that only appear under electricity, and there are, like, these, like, caterpillars that move along, so you have to, like, follow them. There's a bunch of new enemies in this game that I think are interesting. Like, they introduce a new version of the Gatling Groink called the, I think it's called the Fiery Groink. And, like, that's horrifying. A fire-themed Gatling Groink. One of the most deadly enemies in Pikmin. Getting a fire variant, that's real scary. I kind of think that things might show up in Pikmin 4. Like, there's a real possibility. Because that sounds horrifying. So that was cool. And there's, so in Pikmin there's an enemy called the Bread Bug. And there's an enemy called the Crumb Bug. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cute. There was these, like, fire moths that I thought were kind of neat. You fight a giant, one of the bosses is a giant fiery blowhog. And you have to, like, hit it on one side and then attack it from the other. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Right, you have to, like, throw bomb rocks into its snout to, like, suck them up. They use all the types of Pikmin, so you'll have levels designed around winged Pikmin. And then you'll have levels designed around, rocks. There are no purples and whites, but everything that was in 3 is here. I don't know, there's some fine levels, there are some boring levels. Winged Pikmin, you, like, float with winged Pikmin. So there's one level where you're just falling down like a giant chasm, and you have to, like, glide in, like, certain areas to collect certain enemies and treasures. And it's like, okay, that's... But you also have to, like, avoid things and throw Pikmin at certain areas to do certain things. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing there, game. Again, it's not bad, but it's also not good. It's just, like, right there in the middle. I'd probably lean more positive than I would negative, admittedly. Like, I more enjoy the game than I dislike it. But it's not... I would have rather had, like, an actual real Pikmin game. Or even, like, a Pikmin, like... Oh, what was the idea I had? Oh, you know what would make a great Pikmin game? A roguelite. Like, imagine a Pikmin roguelite where you're playing as a Pikmin. Think of something like Dead Cells. And where you're going in, you're doing your run, like, oh, you start off as a red Pikmin, and you can do fire attacks. And you get your upgrades, you get new weapons and whatnot. And then your Pikmin dies, and then back at your home base, an onion sprouts a new Pikmin, and that's your next run. I think Pikmin would make a kind of interesting roguelite. That was an idea I had while playing this game. Yeah, Pikmin and then, you could spawn in, like, hey, on this next run, I want to play as a yellow Pikmin, and now I have electricity attacks. Oh, I want to do a white Pikmin to give me poison attacks. Like, that could be kind of fun. Yeah, roguelite Pikmin. Binding of Isaac Pikmin. And the new glow Pikmin are the Lost from Binding of Isaac, right? Your one-shot kills. Yeah. Yeah, Hey Pikmin's been fine. I mean, I'm gonna finish it. I think I'm at World 7, I think. Which is an ice world. Yeah, they really saved that ice world until the end. There's a Pikmin Park thing that's just kind of like, oh, basically after every level you go back to your Pikmin Park and get some free treasure. And it's like, okay, whatever. And you need a lot of treasure to complete the game. You need like 26,000, maybe even 30,000. It's like a lot. So the only other thing I've been playing that I can think of off the top of my head is Link's Awakening. So I know earlier in the year we talked about me playing Link's Awakening, and I actually had a really good time with it. And so recently there's a D&D actual play podcast, let's just go with that, called Questline. So it's a YouTube channel. I think they stream live on Twitch, called Questline. And what got me interested in them was the fact that they're doing an Avatar. Because you know that Avatar role-playing game came out like earlier. I want to say the demos came out last year, but it actually like officially came out like earlier this year. That sounds right anyways. I have it. I've never played it, but I have it. I have the book and everything. But so that Avatar real play, so, right, that Avatar thing, and they're the first group I've seen to do an Avatar actual play podcast. And I was like, oh, that sounds very interesting. And I guess they've been streaming them on Twitch, but I've been waiting for them to come to YouTube. Right? I've been waiting for these streams to come to YouTube, because I missed all the Twitch streams. So finally, I think last week, they started uploading them to YouTube. I think as of right now, they have uploaded episodes 1 and 2. And so I was listening to episodes 1, and it's an actual pod. Like, they have costumes. They've got a great looking, like, DM screen that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But, usually when I listen to a podcast like this, I like to do something else. Like, I like to, multitask. And I was like, what do I want to do? And so so a few years ago for the Zelda anniversary, they released a Zelda Game & Watch, a little green device. And I was like, you know what? I should play Link's Awakening on this. Because it's not, interestingly enough, it's not Link's Awakening DX. It's not, obviously, the Switch remake. No, it's the original Game Boy version, not the Game Boy Color, but the Game Boy version of Link's Awakening. I've never seen that anywhere. So, every time they re-release Link's Awakening on, the DSe shop, the DSi shop, the Wii U eShop, the Wii eShop, anywhere's the 3DS is what the one I kept meaning to keep saying. Anytime they re-release Link's Awakening, they always release the DX version. On Nintendo Switch Online, it's the DX version. They never re-released the original Link's Awakening. And I've never played the original Link's Awakening. So I was like, maybe I should finally start using this and play the original Link's Awakening. So while listening to this Avatar Real Play podcast, actual play, I don't remember the correct terminology, I've been playing Link's Awakening on this little screen. And honestly, I've been liking it. I remember Link's Awakening, I just played it earlier this year. I, this time, did not make the same mistakes I made in the last one. I still hate the Face Shrine, though. The 6th dungeon, the Face Shrine dungeon, is still my least favorite dungeon. I have not beaten it. I should say I have not beaten Link's Awakening. I am currently at the start of Eagle's Tower. So, I just got to Eagle's Tower a few hours ago. But other than that, I've been trying to avoid some of my mistakes that I made on my last playthrough. And so far, things have been going well. I've been trying to collect secret seashells where I remember them. I know every version of Link's Awakening adds more secret seashells. And I thought you get things for like, oh, at 5 seashells you get something. At 10 seashells you get something. And then for getting 20, and I know in the Switch remake there's 50 of them. But no, in this one there's only 20 as far as I can tell. And once you get all 20, then you presumably get the sword upgrade. Assuming the sword upgrade is here. There is no color dungeon, obviously. But yeah, it's just a really simple little, you know, it's Link's Awakening. I honestly think... So I did that right before Tears of the Kingdom came out. I did my ranking of my favorite Zelda games, and I put Link's Awakening at number 5. And the more I play it, the more I'm like, yeah, you know, that was a... I definitely think that it should be in my top 5. I should replay Minish Cap at some point. I think I'm giving Minish Cap a bad rap. But no, I really... And it's crazy playing Link's Awakening and Link to the Past back to back, because I enjoy Link's Awakening so much more than I enjoy Link to the Past. Like, it's kind of crazy. But I really enjoy that Link's Awakening. And God, when are they going to release Oracles of Ages and Seasons on Switch? Like, you know, it's been 2 months since Tears of the Kingdom came out. I really feel like they should capitalize on the Tears of the Kingdom thing. I get not wanting to put it out, like, within the same month. Maybe even the next month. But they should put it out now. Because I would love to play Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. But no, I've been replaying that, listening to the Avatar... I think it's called A Quest for Spirits? Something, maybe it's called A Book of Spirits. I recommend looking it up. Again, the first 2 episodes are on YouTube. The DM, whose name is... Oh, gosh, is their name Petra Skeleton? It's something awesome like that. I think they do a great job. I've enjoyed their DMing. I enjoy all the characters. The only one I remember is Aime. Because I'm bad with names. Is Kondo one of the other ones? I remember one of them is a Dai Li. Yeah, one of them is Dai Li. The Earthbender. Is Dempo the Waterbender? I don't know, I'm bad with names. But I've been enjoying it. You know, I'm going to keep watching it weekly as it comes out. I have not been watching Dungeons and Drag Queens. God, what a great fucking name. Like, that's something that someone's had in their pockets for years now. And they've just been waiting for a chance to make that. And finally it happened, and I love the name, and they've got a good cast. I just haven't watched it. So yeah, so I guess that takes us to the last thing for the night. So, comic books. So, as you know, one of the few comic books... I don't read that many comic books, but I do every once in a while. And one of the few comic books I read, one of my favorite superheroes of all time, is Miss Marvel. And a few weeks ago, they killed off Miss Marvel in the Amazing Spider-Man comics. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, and we talked about it at the time. I talked about, like, what stupid fucking bullshit this is. Well, this week, the Death of Miss Marvel comic came out. So, I did read that. I found a copy. Did I give Marvel my money? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't recommend you give Marvel your money. So, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I read this Death of Miss Marvel comic. So it's 3 issues. It's basically 3 different stories all around the Death of Miss Marvel. The first one is about her friends, right? You know, from the Miss Marvel comic, written by G. Willow Wilson, who wrote some of the original Miss Marvel comics. And I liked it. I think the best that of the 3 stories, I'd probably say it's my favorite, because it's them showing up at the mosque for Miss Marvel's funeral service, for Kamala's funeral service, and just kind of explaining some of this. I know there are some problems with this comic with, like, a Muslim burial, and, like, how, as part of it, they don't have Kamala's body, and that causes, and in a Muslim funeral, and a Muslim burial, has, like, its own problems. But I don't know the details of it. I just know that is a problem. And we'll get to that at the end. But the first one by G. Willow Wilson, I do like. Because I like seeing her friends, them struggling with that. I like seeing Wolverine come in and be very solemn, very respectful. Carol Danvers also comes in and, you know, pays her respects as well. Because, yeah, as time goes on, we get more and more heroes. Chatty Bob shows up, which, like, this is the return of Chatty Bob. Like, holy shit. This is what took to bring them back. It's a whole thing. But from then, the second one is all about the champions. And it's like, what the fuck? What? Like, okay, so one of the weird things about the death of Miss Marvel is that it happened in a Spider-Man book. And it happened with the Avengers. And Spider-Man. And, fucking I think the Fantastic Four were there as well. And it's like, none of these are Kamala's friends. These are not Kamala's character. Like, yeah, she was on the Avengers for a little bit. But it was a different Avengers. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, what? Like, it's really weird. But so I would think, like, oh, well, okay, so in this book, The Death of Miss Marvel, we're getting the champions. But it's just really fucking weird. And, like, they comment on, like, Viv, how she, like, turns off her emotions. And then she turns them back on. And I'm like, didn't we already do this? Because I've read the champions. It wasn't entirely my thing. I'll say the champions wasn't entirely my thing. But from my understanding, no. This is not just a me thing this time. This run of the champions is very fucking weird. Or having the champions here at the funeral is just very poorly written. There's a panel where we flash back to Viv and Hulkling making out one time. And it's like, there was no reason to do that. What the fuck? Especially because after that happened in the champions, Vision did eventually come out of the closet. And that's like a whole other thing. So the second run, which is Wade something? Whoever does the second part, it's a fucking mess. The final part though is all about the Avengers point of view, where Tony comes in, and I love that he takes his metal boots off. That's a good touch. It's him talking to Doctor Strange about, like, hey, have we thought about bringing back Miss Marvel? Is there any way for us to do this respectfully? Because both Stephen Strange and Iron Man were in Kamala's comic when her dad got sick from, like, a weird inhuman disease. And, both of them helped her dad. Doctor Strange operated on her dad when he was sick, when he was dying. So, like, they have a presence in her story and in her life. So, no, it was cool to see both of them here. And, yeah, they talk about it. Captain America gives a speech about, what Miss Marvel means to people. And, yeah, again, Captain America in the comic even admits that he rarely met Kamala Khan. The part 2 was written by Mark Waid. That's who it was. And part 3 was written by... Give me a second here, I'm going to pull it up. Saladin Ahmad. Or Saladin? Yeah, no, they're actually, they're bringing up, like, hey, what do we do? And then it ends with Spider-Man showing... Because a lot of the characters show up late to the service, and I don't know why they did that. But it's Spider-Man showing up at one of the last ones, and it was like, oh, your daughter was my hero. Or something like that. Let me get the exact line. Mr. and Mrs. Khan, my name's Peter Parker. Your daughter was my hero. Yep, because he doesn't know how to address these. But that's how the book ends. It's overall, the entire Death of Miss Marvel has been a fucking mess. And then, within 24 hours of this comic coming out, is it Entertainment Weekly? Someone put out a story revealing that, yes, they are bringing Miss Marvel back, later this year, written in a story written by Iman Vellani, who is the actress who plays Miss Marvel in the TV show. She's writing a Miss Marvel comic about Miss Marvel being revived as an X-Men. Right? Kamala's now an X-Men. Now, the weird thing is that according to the story, it sounds like she is both an X-Men and an Inhuman, which is kind of weird. We all knew this was coming, right? The second they leaked Miss Marvel's death, we all knew the reason they were doing this was for MCU synergy, because in the MCU she's a mutant. And the only reason she's not a mutant in the comics is because of the whole Fox Marvel licensing deal with the X-Men, and how they didn't want to make X-Men, how Marvel wanted to like limit X-Men comics and like how Marvel stopped making Fantastic Four comics for a little bit. You may not remember that, but yeah, because of Fox owning the rights to X-Men, Marvel stopped making Fantastic Four, or because of Fantastic Four and X-Men, they stopped making those comics for a while. That was a whole thing. I know people, I don't know, I know they do nowadays, and like things have changed definitely, because now they own the rights again. But yeah, it's been a whole thing. But yeah, so trying to do some brand synergy. I mean, I do think it's interesting that the actress who's playing her, who is admittedly a big fan of her comic, right? Iman Vellani has said she's a huge fan of the comics. So I hope she does justice by this, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But this entire thing, the death of Miss Marvel, and the current run of The Amazing Spider-Man, has just been a fucking disaster. I don't know, one of the people who I follow on TikTok that talks about it, commented about how, right, the Spider-Man run sucks, the Miss Marvel this Miss Marvel stuff has been a mess. Miss Marvel hasn't had her own series since like 2019 or something like crazy like that. No, maybe not 2019, maybe 2020. It's been a while. It's been a while. I think it's Gwenpool is 2019. Which, give us some more Gwenpool, Marvel. I loved the original run of Gwenpool. That was fucking great. Yeah, give us some more Gwenpool. Yeah, right now, Marvel's a fucking mess. And don't even get me started on the Spider-Boy stuff. Which, I cannot tell if they're setting up Spider-Boy to be Syndrome. Like, from what little I've seen of it, it kind of looks like they're setting up Spider-Boy to be Syndrome, but they're also really hard pushing his comic, and then they made a bunch of clickbait, like, comic covers, and they give us this really cool, like, Ghost Rider girl on wheel skates design that, you know, everyone thinks is awesome, and this punk rock thing, and there's some cool shit in there, but it's totally just clickbait. I don't know, I'm not reading it. It's Spider-Man. Marvel Comics is a fucking mess right now. And man, Miss Marvel's coming back at it as an X-Men. I really hope it's kind of in the She-Hulk show, how Bruce Banner's like, oh, it's going to take us years. I'm going to train you to be, you know, a Hulk. And then within one episode, she's like, no, you know, I've got this, you know, I'll be fine. You go off and do your Bruce Banner thing. I kind of hope that's what they do with Miss Marvel and the X-Men. That, right, the X-Men are like, hey, we're going to train you, we're going to help you out. Because that's what happened to our body. Is that the X-Men have it, and they're going to bring her back. Because currently, the X-Men have the ability to bring anyone back from the dead. It's honestly kind of really fucking confusing. I don't know, I really do want to read the current run of X-Men, but it's a lot. And X-Men's fucking weird. But I hear it's actually really good. Dawn of X, House of X. It's all really good stuff. But yeah, so that's how Kamala's being brought back, through the X-Men stuff. But I really do hope that, yeah, it's like, oh, we're going to train you as an X-Man. And then she just gets the hang of it immediately. And goes back to Jersey City, goes back to her friends. As if, you know, nothing happened. I doubt that's what it's going to be. But it'd be better. And then just give her a new series. Give her a new series, Marvel. Come on, do it. Do it, you fucking cowards. Ugh. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got to talk about. So we'll do one more battle, and then we'll call it for the night. I said about an hour and a half. Oh my god. My tummy hurts. Oh, my bed's a mess. Oh god, I gotta clean that. I've run out of room. So, Prime Day was the other day. And, so Prime, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Prime Day, right? It's Amazon's Black Friday. That's not how I think about it. I think about Prime Day as just like, hey, guess what? Do you like, need some, like, household stuff? Like, do you need some, like, random little things? Well, here's a good chance to get some of those things on, like, cheap. Like, oh, do you need a set of, like, do you need, like, a new set of, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example of some cheap bullshit. Like, God, this is gonna be weird. Like, do you need a giant box of tissues? Well, hey, guess what? That's now 20% off. Why not get it at Prime Day? Hey, do you want a bidet? Well, guess what? There's no better time to get a bidet than Prime Day. Like, it's not for the big ticket items, right? It's not like your Black Fridays. Even though, to be fair, in past years, since COVID, Black Friday has fucking sucked. Because, you know, companies can just charge whatever they want. Their deals suck. Now, Prime Day is for, like, the little gadgets. This year for Prime Day, I bought a towel. I saw a thing where towels were on sale. And was like, yeah, my towel's probably a little up there in age. I could use a new one. So yeah, I bought like 2 new towels. Like, that's the type of shit I buy on Prime Day. Not anything big, just like small shit like that. Like, oh, do you need like a pack of batteries? Oh, well, here. To be fair, I think I still have mine from last Prime Day. Not that many things use batteries anymore, which is very nice. You know, I like all the things that use USB charging cables and whatnot. Especially everything that uses USB-C. Like that little Nintendo Legend of Zelda Game & Watch. That uses USB-C. Right? I can charge that with the same charger I use for my phone. And it works great. It's so convenient. I'm really glad Nintendo got into USB-C with the Switch. That they were like, and they were kind of ahead of the curve on that. They were like, yeah, we're going to use USB-C, because my phone uses it, my Switch uses it, my headphones use it. Everything I have uses USB-C. And it's just super convenient. And then you have Apple. But I will never be an Apple guy. Nope, never. Fuck Apple. Yeah. You know who I know is going to be scabs in the writer. So right, companies can no longer have their actors promote the movie, so they're going to go to influencers. And you know who owns an influencer company? Warner Brothers. You know who they own? Rooster Teeth. You know who they're probably going to get promoting all of their movies and making their press junkets for their movies because they're not on strike? Rooster Teeth. Is that scabbing? Because they work for that company? Maybe. God. Oh, I've been, since Smosh has reunited, I've been rewatching Smosh. So great. Modern Smosh, the Ian and Anthony reunite has been great. I mean, they've been remaking some of their old, right, they've been, like, making updated versions of some of their own sketches. Like, they did the, hey, we're talking at the same time sketch again. And that was cute to see. I was like, okay, I had fun with this. I do hope that they do, right, as part of this. Like, I like the idea of them redoing some of their old sketches and stuff like that, like, giving that classic vibe. But I also do hope they evolve their craft. right? Like, that's why I don't watch Yogscast all the time, but every once in a while I come back to it, and am like, yeah, they did evolve their craft. There are tons of good things about Yogscast. That I don't watch all that often, but every once in a while I think about it, and I'm like, no, these guys are still good. And yeah, I've been watching the Smosh stuff. They did a video the other day of Ian reading Anthony's angry letter that he wrote shortly after he left Smosh. And that was really interesting, and it highlights the importance of communication. And that part of the reason Anthony left in the first place is because Ian and Anthony stopped talking to each other. Right? And it's even earlier, like, he even brings up, like, it happened in, like, 2009. Like, that was when I started watching. Was when their, like, friendship started falling apart. And when Anthony started growing resentful. But now, in the present, they've got a healthy mode of communication. You know, they've both been to therapy. A lot of things have changed. And yeah, good for them. I'm rooting for the Smosh Revival, actually. And yeah, they've been doing great stuff. I hope they start doing even more new stuff. I'm really rooting for them. So I've been enjoying that. Oh, we didn't even check the last shop. Oh my god, it hits like 105 tomorrow. No, I think it hits 105 on Monday. Oops, I was wrong about that. No, I think it's like 103 tomorrow, then 105 on Monday. Which I know, oh, well, hey, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're at 120. Yeah, well, you live in a city that's front to God. I don't want to hear any of your shit. You made that choice, or you were grandfathered into that choice. That's your fault. Oh, God, it's hot. At least I live in a house with an air conditioner. You know, that wasn't always the case. It used to get up to these temperatures, and all I had was a ceiling fan and a tower fan. Also a box fan. Yeah, one room had my office had a tower fan, and my bedroom had a box fan. Yeah. Oh, that was so long ago. That was... God, was that 2020? It might have been even earlier than that. That might have been before the pandemic, even. Alright, so that's where we're ending off for tonight. Oh gosh. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, with Pikmin 2. I don't know, it was... I considered streaming it. I want to say Thursday was Pikmin 3's 10-year anniversary. So, that was kind of crazy, and I was like, oh, should I just do Pikmin 3? I mean, we've technically beaten 2. But no, we'll be back with Pikmin 2. I want to be Pikmin 2 tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen. Because the Dream Den and I want to say the Hole of Heroes are really long dungeons. Like, they're like... I want to say the Dream Den is like 12 floors and the Hall of Heroes is like 15. So those... And they're fucking mean dungeons. Like, those dungeons are assholes. But I would love to do both of those. I'd love to finish off and that's like, and we still have 2 dungeons in the starting area as well. We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot to do. I would love to finish it next stream. I don't think we will. Just being a realist here. But we will hopefully finish it as soon as possible. I might skip a Zelda stream just to do Pikmin, so that, because I want all 3 Pikmin games done before Pikmin 4. And we've only got... Because we don't have Tuesday. Or Thursday, I mean. I can't stream Thursday. I took Thursday off, but we can't stream during it. I've got other shit to do. So, there's no streaming Thursday. So, I've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I have 4 days to beat 1.5 Pikmin games. Shit. We'll figure it out. Again, we're really close. We've got If I wanted to beat Tears of the Kingdom, we could beat Tears of the Kingdom next stream. But preferably, I would like to do some more exploring and then beat it. I know the next stream is kind of... There's an asterisk there, but it's kind of stream 20. And I said we would finish by part 20. But I have no problem finishing at part 21. We'll just have to see how time plays out. God, I cut this thing way closer than I wanted to. Either that or we do an early morning stream on Thursday, but I kind of don't want to do that. Because Thursday is a busy day, but not for reasons. And then Friday is Pikmin 4. And yes, we will be streaming Pikmin 4 on Friday. Yep, the second I get off work, Pikmin 4, and we'll go for... Hopefully, I'd love to go for 6 hours, but we'll see. I just don't want to beat Pikmin 4 in a single day. I don't want to do that. I don't know, based on the demo, there's a lot. Hopefully that game is huge. Because we played 2 hours of the demo, and I feel like we barely scratched the surface. Like, I found out later that you can actually get blue Pikmin in the demo. Like the blue onion. And I had no idea. But I think that was Arlo or something where I saw that. Because I watched him play the demo as well. Okay, we've got to end off. We'll be back with Pikmin tomorrow. Zelda. We're finishing Zelda by the end of July. So even if we put Pikmin as the priority, I have no problem finishing Zelda by the end of July. I guess that's my thoughts on it. As long as we finish before... Let's just say as long as we finish by July 30th. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good to me. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.